sure that I was a citizen and an outstanding, I guess, with a valid driver's license. But Lord, just as you give us grace and mercy, we thank you for that. We ask that you would be here, Lord, as we would look at the Sermon on the Mount, or the great message that is in Matthew 5 through 7. Lord, be with us tonight, Lord God, in Jesus' name, amen. I've been reading and studying the Sermon on the Mount. And we're going to be in Matthew 5, 13 through 16. But a lot of the times when you read the Bible, don't read. I mean, you can. But you should always read before and after. And basically, if you just look at Matthew 5:4, we could look through it. He's calling us to a character. A certain character a Christian is supposed to have. The character should be attractive. It should be winsome in a way. What attracts us? And I'm not saying attraction like a man and a woman. There can be something about an individual that's attractive to you. Hopefully it's the Christ in you. But a lot of the times it's the character. Christ calls us to a certain character. And it's wild when you look at it. It starts in verse 3. Poor in spirit. 4. Those who mourn. 5. Gentle. 6. Hungering and thirsting for righteousness. And it continues. Merciful, pure in heart, peacemakers. Look at what he says after that. Blessed are those who have been persecuted for the sake of righteousness. I'm reading the American Standard. For theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are you when people insult you and persecute you and falsely say all kinds of evil against you because of me. Rejoice. So a certain character that rejoices when persecution comes. It's easy to have a Christian character when things are good. It's easy to do that. A couple of hallelujahs, bless you, brother, amens. But when things are bad, you should still have that character. God is calling you to a certain character. Do we always make it? No. Should we strive every day? Sure, we should. Be perfect, for I am perfect. And perfect is not perfection. It just means whole or mature. As we mature, and hopefully everybody matures in Christ, that's what God has called, a character. He's calling you to a character. In fact, you want to be blessed? Look what he says. Because what does blessed mean? Happy. Happy are those who mourn, for they shall be comforted. You know what he's talking about mourning? He's talking about mourning over sin. Happy are the poor in spirit. So those things, they kind of don't fit. But when you think about it, we should have aspirations of having those types of characters, shouldn't we? And I get it, when you read it, it's just like, wow, what is poor in spirit? You mean I'm supposed to rejoice when people say all kinds of things about me? Yeah. When I was a little zealous in the Lord for evangelism, I would have some good encounters. I had one encounter that just, I don't imagine I was always the light and the salt when it came to evangelism. But you have different encounters. And I'm sure I wasn't always the greatest example. But you got to remember, when you're sharing the gospel with people in your workplace, they're not rejecting you, they're rejecting Jesus. And when I had that mindset, I could go and I can effectively share the gospel with people. the Bible says men love darkness rather than light. Why? Because their deeds are evil. And that's true. We're going to look at that. We'll look at the world a little bit and where the world is. And the old saying is, before we came to Christ, what? We were characters, and now we're coming to Christ, what? Hopefully we're all gaining character, right? Galatians 5:22, love, joy, peace, long-suffering, gentleness, kindness, faithfulness. Those types of characters, right? You come to Christ, man, that guy's a character. And believe me, I was a character. My mom laughs, and I'm not going to tell you any more stories about me. But I've come to Christ, and I like to think that I'm gaining character. God is calling you to that certain character. Spurgeon, I love Spurgeon. He says, a good character is the best tombstone. Those who loved you and were helped by you will remember you when the forget-me-nots have withered. Carve your name on hearts, not marble. I remember Pete gave a message one time. You're living out that dash. How many people are going to be at your funeral? It's an interesting thought, huh? How many people have you touched because of your character? The Lord calls us to a certain character. You know, if you've come to Christ, you can't remain the same. I'm going to say it again. If you come to Christ, you should not remain the same. You should be maturing in Christ, following Him. And there was character defects. They fall off in the characteristics of Christ. That's what should be coming on. Your life should change. You know why? Because God deals with His kids, doesn't He? He deals with me. What's the scripture say? Whom the Lord loves, He chastens, and He scourges every son He receives. That's God dealing with His kids, isn't it? For what father does not chastise his son? God deals with us in certain areas. For me, it's like self-willed. I always I can do this, you know. It's funny, I was sitting there just thinking. And Missy says, what's wrong with you? She says, I already know how you're thinking. Boom, 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 boom. And I'm like, dang. I start thinking something else just to keep her surprised. But I'm really self-willed, and whatever, God deals with you with pride or anger, He wants to turn us into a humble, gentle, thy will be done type of person. Pride is nasty, isn't it? Anger is kind of nasty. The Bible says to be slow to anger. Be angry and sin not, right? So you can be angry. It's a healthy emotion. But where does that anger go? So let's pick up in verse 13. God is calling us to a certain character. So He says, have this character. And here we go, verse 13. You are the salt of the earth, but if the salt has become tasteless, how can it be made salty again? It is no longer good for anything except to be thrown out and trampled underfoot by men. Verse 14, you are the light of the world. A city set on a hill cannot be hidden, nor does anyone light a lamp and put it under a basket, but on a lampstand, and it gives light to to all who are in the house. Verse 16, let your light shine before men, so they would see your good works and pass you on the back. One word that comes to my mind is influence. You got kids? Who's got kids? Who's got grandkids? Let's go to a wider spectrum. Influence. You are the salt. You are the light. You're influencing somebody you don't even know. You've heard me say it before, right? You're either pushing people to Christ or pushing people away from Christ. It's scary when you think that, when I think that way. But if you look at verse 13, he's talking about influence. He's talking about how you and me affect the world. How we influence. We could broaden that spectrum. You got co-workers. You got people who live in your house. Maybe they're not family. you rent rooms, you go to college, you go to school. People are watching. You know what they can't wait to say? I thought you were a Christian. You know what I say? Hey man, judge not lest you be judged. No, I'm just kidding. Isn't that the verse though? Isn't that the verse though? You know, hey, don't judge me, man. You know, I have the right. I was talking to some of the brothers today because I'm just not a roofer. I went to school, so I don't have to be a laborer, you know, but Pastor Mark asked us to go get some shingles. You know, it was nice to spend time with the guys, and that question came up of judgment. And a lot of people say, hey, you know, don't judge me. And I told them, you know what happens? They got some unsettled things in their life, and they don't want to talk about it, and they don't want to bring it up to anybody. Because John 7:24 says, what? Judge not according to appearance, but judge with righteous judgment. 1 Corinthians 2:15. A righteous man judges all things, right? So there is a part of a judgment, an examination that has to take place. If I approach somebody, as I expect people to approach me when I'm out of line, I'm not going to say, hey, brother, don't judge me, man. I want that accountability. But oftentimes, people say, hey, don't judge me, man, you know. But influence. The first duty to love is to listen. And sometimes all we have to do is just listen. We all have the right counsel, the right word at the right time. Just listen sometimes. And they'll say, hey, you know what, that guy's a great listener. And that influences them what? To listen to somebody else. That stuff is contagious. And that's what we want our Christianity to be, is contagious, right?
Right. Yeah.
I'm always pretty cognitive of how faith looks at me. You know, I'm just like kind of a jokester. Some people, if you don't know me very well, you know, we'll be in Walmart and, you know, I'll just yell and say, you want to get spanked right now? And she's just like on her phone. And just, it's amazing what people, they turn their blind eye to that. They look, but they just turn their blind eye to that. And that's not really me. You know, the other day we were at Walmart and I said, this lady's got something in her bag. Just to have fun, you know. Didn't have anything in her bag, but I'm influencing her to say, hey, that we can have fun. Because she's watching me. She's watching how I treat her mom. She's watching me how I interact with people, and people are watching us, and we want to influence. That's what he's saying here. Influence. He starts with what? You're the salt of the earth. In those days, salt was a valued commodity. At times, the Roman soldiers got paid in salt. Anybody ever heard the term, you're worth in salt? No. It's an old term. Yeah. Salt was valued then. And it says, disciples are like salt because they should have a preserving influence. And in those times, salt was also used to preserve meats and slow decay, right? And the Lord calls us to be that preserving influence, not just in the world, but bring it closer to the people around you, to your family. You know what word I like? Legacy. I think, what kind of a legacy am I going to live? You know how many times I hear about Pastor Mike Lewis all the time. I thought, the guy left a great legacy. I wonder how many people were at his funeral. A bunch. Just the impact that he made. The influence and the character that he was, right? And we could go on, Chuck Smith, same thing. But the influence and the character that these men have, we should aspire to have that, shouldn't we? What kind of influence, I mean, when you think about it, are we being really? It calls you to be salt. And salt, as sodium chloride, it really can't lose its flavor. Because if it dissolves, there's nothing more. But what happens is the salt used in the Dead Sea often at times is contaminated. And it was mingled with other substances. And that's what it says, it becomes tasteless. Because you can't taste the salt. You mix it with other stuff. And think about us as Christians. He says to be the salt, right? And what happens? We start mingling with people we shouldn't, right? Me too, included. The Greek, moraino, it means becomes, well, when he says it becomes tasteless, it means foolish. And oftentimes when we start mingling, I start acting foolish. You get around the wrong people. You start switching up your language. And you think about that term, foolish or taint or useless. You ever go up and you say, man, I'm going to go, I'm a witness. Be a light, man. Be a light in this bar. Better not go to a bar, Christian. But you might, I have unsaved family members, and I always pray, and I think, man, I want to be able to say the right thing. It just normally doesn't happen. You know what says more than my mouth? My life. Amen. My life says everything. But when he says it becomes tasteless, just like I said, it gets mingled with other substances. And as Christians, we have to be careful we don't start mingling with the wrong people. Okay, sometimes it's fun, you know. I want to be a light, you know. Start hanging, I'm going to go save somebody today. Just be a light. Plant and water seeds. Because it's easier to pull somebody down than it is to pull somebody up. And oftentimes as Christians, like I said, we start mingling and we become foolish. And if you look at that word, we get that term moron from moronic. And that's what happens sometimes. We just become morons sometimes because we're trying to win people, and yet we're mingling, and sometimes it's not good. So be careful. I think for me, I was going to teach on Matthew 10 when he's talking about Jesus sends the disciples out, and he says if they receive you in their house, give them a blessing. And if they don't, what does he tell you? Move on, dust your feet off. And for me, sometimes I try and I try and I try and I try, and sometimes, church, I just need to dust my feet off and move on. Sometimes I do that. And I'll take that to the Lord. You know, sometimes I extend grace, and it's probably to my demise at times. But I'll tell you what, I want grace when I go to the throne. I don't want justice. So like I said, it's probably to my demise, but it's tough. Sometimes I need to dust my feet off. And sometimes we want to, he who wins souls is wise is the problem. We want to do that. We want to see people get saved, right? But at what cost? I've come to the realization that I'm not going to save my brother. I got a brother in my eyes that he's just backslidden and he claims Christianity. And I think about sitting down with him and say, hey, dude, what's going on with you? It's not going to be me that wins it. It's going to be me on my knees. Pray for him. So sometimes when you're trying to be salt to somebody, remember, sometimes you just got to dust your feet off sometimes. I get it. Love hopes all things. I've been through that many, many times. I've seen some highs and lows in ministry, men's ministry, and it's tough. And you talk about getting your heart ripped out, it's tough. But sometimes you just got to dust your feet off, plant, water seeds, and God's going to give the increase. Amen? Amen. God calls us to be salt, but we don't want to mix it with the wrong people. And Jesus is saying when salt loses its flavor, it's no good. What does he say? When it mixes with other influence, it's thrown in the pathways. Oftentimes it's mixed with other minerals so the weeds won't come up. Trampled underfoot, that's what he's saying. It becomes useless. But think about it more. You are the salt of the earth. Like I said, we want to be an influence, right? We're there. We will win souls for Christ at the Black Sabbath concert. 1 Corinthians 15:33, bad company corrupts good morals. You can have all the will and you've got the Lord behind you, but you need to be careful because it happens. You could have the right intentions, but end up being around the wrong people. And, you start talking about Jesus and nobody's real receptive and they start talking about other worldly stuff. And then guess what? The conversation turns. And then Jesus is out the window. Be careful. Sometimes you got to pick your battles, right? Verse 14, what's he saying? You are the what? The light of the world. The city set on the hill cannot be hidden. Now he uses salt, which is a preservative. Now he's using light. Basically, he's presupposing something here. That the world is decaying, and it is, and that the world is in darkness. It is. And we can see, for the decay you need salt, and you need light where there is darkness. And we can see the world is not getting any worse. It's not getting any better.
No.
It's not. Blame it on whatever we want. It's not getting any better. 2 Timothy 3:13, evil men and impostors will proceed from bad to worse, deceiving and being deceived. I feel bad for the person that stands around saying the world is evolving and getting better. It's not. It's different. I hear stories, my mom tells me stories about the times when she was younger. You drive down the street, you can smell marijuana everywhere. Everywhere. I mean, what was the guy, I think about it, what was the cops, the police sheriff, the sheriff, what was his intention? To run my license and see if I was legal, you know? To shake me down or what? Because that's how the world is. Well, I wasn't legal. That's how the world is. He probably runs into people all the time that are driving without a license, driving without insurance. That's the way of the world. It's not getting any better. And that's what he says, salt and light. It's decayed and it's dark. I mean, you look around, the decay and the darkness are increasing, and we have turned up the volume louder on stuff. You can basically get inappropriate material on your phone these days. Kids. I mean, when I was younger, we didn't have phones. We had it in the paper form. So it's progressed and progressed and progressed into $1 million industry. And it's not getting any better. We have this personification of two people sitting on the beach. And in between them, there's two ice-cold Coronas. Is that relaxation? That's not for me. But that's the persona that we see on TV, isn't it? It's dark, it's decaying, and He calls us to be salt and light. And not just to the world, in your homes, in your workplaces, among your family. When I was in school, it was a little bit different. I went to a public school. I know that Faith has friends that deal with a little bit of same-sex attraction. It's even on Instagram, it's okay to be gay. And I'm not tripping on that. But years ago, you would have never heard that. You would have never heard that it's openly okay for a junior high person to say, hey, same-sex attraction. A nice kid, too. Took him to Harvest Crusade. He went down, gave his life to the Lord. Like last year, I asked him, you ever read the Bible? And he says, yeah, people come to our house and teach us the Bible. Jehovah's Witnesses. He lives back there in Mead Valley, and if you live back there, you'll see them cruising around, infiltrating the homes, not preaching the truth, because if they were preaching the truth, they would say, hey, there's something wrong there. But just like Timothy said, deceiving and being deceived. It's getting worse and worse, and we have to be visible lights. Look what he says, a city set on the hill cannot be hidden. And I read in a commentary, if you travel to the Holy Land, you see certain cities, whether it be Nazareth or Canaan, and it's built on a hill. Why? Because there's probably a good breeze that goes through there. They're easily defended. And at night, guess what? They're easily found. As Christians, the light of Christ in us, guess what? It should be easily found, shouldn't it? That's what he says, a city set on the hill cannot be hidden. You can't hide it. It's visible. And as Christians, our Christianity should be visible. Shouldn't it? Yeah. A city set on a hill cannot be hidden. If you have God's light shining in your heart, it should be, like I said, easily found. We're not Masons in a secret society, are we? God didn't tell you to come down here and become a Christian and go join a monastery. We're not in some New World Order secret society. We're Christians, and the Lord is saying, your light should shine. You shouldn't even be able to hide it. We don't have a cult that only a few know of. We're Christians. In the context, if you read the Greek, he says, you're the only light. You're the only salt. And we can go back and forth about that. But that's a great, great challenge for you to look at it that way. You're the only salt. You're the only light. You might be in a place of employment where you are the only light. I was talking with a brother. He says his boss is lesbian, or other supervisors lesbian, and there's one brother that works there, and I think he's a Jehovah's Witness or Mormon. And you can say he's really not even a brother. So you might be in a tough spot where you are the only light, but don't give up. Why? Because people are watching. And like I said, it's easy to come here and say a couple of hallelujahs and bless yous. Let me pray for you. He says, be a light in the world, in your workplace. The world ought to know us. We are the city on the hill, and we are the light of the world. Look at 15. He takes it further. Nor does anyone light a lamp and put it under a basket, but on a lampstand, and it gives light to all who are in the house. And he's not, in the Greek, it's not a candle. It's a portable lamp. And in our culture, or at least in the house that I live in, we put our lamps on a shorter table. When you go to a Jewish house, it's on like a pedestal for everybody to see it. And that's how it should be with us. Everybody should see it. That's what he says, so all can see it. And some feel, I mean, if you look a little bit here, it's a reference to Israel maybe, where you can see the passage there. Look what it says, to all who are in the house. It could be a reference to Gentiles. We'll just say to all. We're going to be a light to everybody. For God so loved the world, he gave his only begotten Son, that whosoever, right? God commands all to repent because he's chosen the day when he judges the world in righteousness and word. I'm not going to get into it, whether it's to Israel or to the Gentiles. It's to me and to you. You're the light of the world. You should be it. You should see it. Not just you. Keep it. Because the Bible says you are created in Christ Jesus for what? For good works, that He foreordained you that you should walk in. Good works that glorify Him. In the last verse, you're going to see that. Good works that glorify you. We don't want to walk around saying, amen. Somebody says, hey, that was a great message, man. Thanks, I really studied hard. No. Praise the Lord. Because He gets all the glory for what He's doing in our lives, right? Whether Jew or Gentile, saved or unsaved, we are the light, and it should be visible to all to see. And we know that Jesus said He is the light. John chapter 8, verse 12, I am the light of the world. He that follows me will not walk in darkness, but will have the light of life. John chapter 9, verse 5, while I walk in the world, I am the light of the world. John chapter 12, verse 35, the light is among you. Ever and always, Jesus claimed to be the light. And the wonderful thing, take this how you want, is God gives you that opportunity to be that light. Now you might say, man, I haven't been being the greatest light out there. Amen. Dust yourself off and get back at it. Everybody has an off day. Everybody has a tough day where we're like, man, I've been going to bed early. It happened to me the other day, man. I'm just going through it. I'm just turning in early. But you don't stay in that place. You're the light. God's calling you to a certain character. Philippians 2:15, and I'll read it. So that you will prove yourselves to be blameless and innocent, children of God, above reproach in the midst of a crooked and perverse generation, among whom you appear as lights in the world. God says, Christ is my light, but you are also the light. He is the sun and you are the moon, right? To borrow an astronomical term. What does a moon do? Reflects the sun, doesn't it? That's all we're trying to do, is reflect Jesus. Be a character, be an influence. Ephesians 5:8, you were once in darkness, but now you are in the light of the Lord. It's a high calling here if you look and you study. It's easy just to read past this verse. Yeah, I'm the light and the salt, man. Yeah. To be an effective light for people and for Christ. Look at the next verse. He personalizes it. Let your light shine in such a way that they may see your good works and glorify your Father who is in heaven. It's simple. Good works. Do things and pat yourself on the back. No. Do things and give God the glory. And if you look a little further, let your good deeds, and there's a in the Greek it's kalos, but he just borrows from that term. Good as in terms of beauty. It's a beautiful thing to see God working in somebody's life. It's a beautiful thing. And that's what he's saying. It's not just a good deed. Anybody can give their old clothes to the Salvation Army. Anybody can do that. You know how many times people call me and say, I want to bless the ram. And I say, I don't want you to jump. I don't say that, but I don't want to. Because sometimes that's what they want to do. You know, when they want to give me an old washer. I thought it worked. Anybody can do that. But your good works, you know what they should be? They should be beautiful. They should have an attractiveness about them. And they should be, this term, winsome, shouldn't they? They should be winning souls. Our conduct and our character should be pointing people to Jesus. And that's basically what that Greek word means. It's beautiful, it's attractive, and it's winsome. In other words, let men see your winsomeness and let them see your beauty and attractiveness, your quality, and your character. And it's not that the works are good in themselves. Like I said, anybody can do that. Give old clothes to the Salvation Army. Anybody can do that. There's nothing wrong with that. But But we want to do things that glorify God, and that's what he says, that let your light shine before men so they would see your good works and pat you on the back. No. They would see your good works and glorify your Father in heaven. You know, there was nobody's going to know, but maybe one guy here. There is hotshot chopper fabricator in the Inland Empire. Street chopper can pretty much do anything. And it got to a time where he couldn't really go anywhere, so he kind of shut his business down. He works for the water department. And I was trying to call him, and he called me and said, "Who's this?" I said, "Oh, this is Zach." I said, "How do I know you?" Well, he recognized my bike. He said, "Oh, yeah, I did that." And I said, "How you been?" I went out to his house, and I said, "How you been?" He said, "I just shut it down. I got kids, I got a family, they need me." I mean, this guy, Albie's the only one that knows him, but I mean, just hotshot fabricator, pretty much can do anything with a motorcycle. He does hot rods, and does trikes. So me and him are having a conversation, and the conversation turns away from bikes, and it was just so cool. And he says, "You know what, I'm going to do this pan. This is the only pan, or this is the only work I've done probably in about a year." And I thought, wow, that's cool. I'm blessed. So, kind of throwing out those, I'm blessed, and those little feelers a little bit. So, he's telling me, we're talking about chopper history and just talking about bikes, and then his daughter comes out. It turns out his daughter's not even his, it's his wife's. And his son comes out and says, "Daddy, are we going to lunch?" And he says, he told me the whole story. Those aren't his kids, but those kids don't know. And he said, "I've shut it down." And we continue to talk, and all of a sudden he says, "So, enough about me, what do you do?" And I thought, okay, here we go. Let my light shine, right? So I throw a feeler out, and I said, I work in kind of sober living, more of a faith-based type of sober living. I don't know if you believe in God. And he says, "I'm a God-fearing man." I thought, wow, you would have never thought this guy was this way. I mean, not that he's all tatted or nothing like that, but you would have never thought. I mean, this guy, like I said, made Street Chopper magazine, well known in the industry. But it turns out he's a God-fearing man, and we just started fellowshipping, and it was so cool. Less about bikes, more about the Lord. And he told me how he came to the Lord, and I told him actually what I do, and he said, "Wow, man, that's cool. That is way cool." And what I took from it is you never know what somebody's watching. You never know somebody's watching. I would have never thought this guy knew the Lord. Never. People are watching you. They're watching your character. And you might be one word away from ministering to them, because I ended up praying with a guy, and he would have never. Some guys in the industry, they think, "Man, lose me with that Jesus stuff. Those are your hallelujahs, man. They're not mine." But it was so cool. I said, "Man, can I pray for you?" He said, "Yeah, absolutely." Your character, your influence, and your quality, people are watching. And God is calling you to have a character. And you never know with this guy. If I said his name, like I said, there's only one person that would know. But he knows the Lord, and then it turned into fellowship, and I thought, you never know who's watching. People are watching even though you think they are not. And they can't wait to say, "I thought you were a Christian. You wear that shirt that says Jesus on it. What's your deal?" People are watching, church. Let's have that character, that quality. And like I said, we don't make it every day real. Far from that. That's what sin is. It's an old archery term, isn't it? It means to miss the mark. In archery, they would say, you sin because you missed the mark. 1 John would say sin is lawlessness, right? But it's just missing the mark. And if you miss the mark, it's okay. 1 John 1:9, confess your sins, he's faithful and just to forgive you and cleanse you of all unrighteousness. Amen. But get back up and work on that character. One writer wrote this: you are writing a gospel, a chapter a day, by deeds that you do and the words that you say. Men read what you say and what you write, whether faultless or true. Say, what is the gospel according to you? It's true, isn't it? There's the old term. Remember the old term? You're the only Jesus somebody might see, right? Hey, we look at the world just like he says here. You're the salt and the light. The world is decaying and it's dark. And it needs us to stand up, to rise up. And I'm not going to say revival and all that. That's cool. But the world needs character. It needs Christians to be salt and light and to be what Jesus called them to be. And I love that last line. What is the gospel according to you? Character. Christ is calling you to a character. Like the old term says, will you ride with me, right? I want to ask Amy to come up and Pastor Mark to come up and play one more song. So I'm going to ask you this: if you haven't been the most outstanding character, maybe your light is burning out a little bit. Maybe you need some prayer. It's up to you. But there'll be some people up here that want to pray with you. If you're struggling, just come on up. Hey, I struggle. Everybody struggles, right? You guys will struggle. So I'm expecting nobody's going to come up here. I'm going to be down here myself. So
I'll come pray for you.
somebody come and pray for me. If you need prayer, come down here. We'll pray together as a family. Amen.
God After the wall was built, Tobias and Sanballat, the enemy said that the wall would never be built. They said if a fox went over, it would fall down. Nehemiah called the whole praise team together, put them on the wall. And they began to sing praises to God. And it says they opened up the Word of God for the first time in years because Jerusalem was trodden down. And these guys, as they read that, this song, let's sing it one more time. Sing it out to Jesus, you guys. We stand and lift up our hands. We stand and lift up our hands for the joy of the Lord is our strength. We bow down and worship you now. How great, how awesome is He. Together we sing. Lord.